And now, your Pickle Gals.
Welcome, everyone. This is our very first Pickle Gals podcast.
Yeah, super exciting.
Super stoked to be here. I think most people probably found us on the Facebook announcement that we made, which was pretty cool.
Right. It was very cool to see just the sheer number of likes and comments and encouragement to bring this topic to light.
Yeah, fantastic. So one of the questions, before we jump right in, one of the questions we were talking about, people are asking us, why? Why are you doing this? You can do so much already in the community. And so, we'll answer that question. But first, let's go ahead and kind of introduce ourselves. And I think I drew the short stick, so I'll go first. But my name is Chrishawn Spackman, and my path to pickleball basically is that I was a Division I basketball player. And late in my senior year, I had a career-ending injury, and I literally left sport altogether for over 20 years, never looked back. And then I was introduced to the game of pickleball, and here I am today starting a podcast with you. And I went out and got certified as a coaching pro. I'm a local pro, head pro here at one of our indoor facilities at Bangers and Dinks. And I'm with Team Engage, so I'm a sponsored player with Team Engage. And most recently, I had the honor of participating in the NPL Combine. So that's a senior pro or champions pro combine. Just a quick shout out. Thank you so much for the opportunity for even having the vision of the NPL, and the draft reveal. Who made the team
Soon.
Comes out Sunday.
Yeah, so we might be announcing your team.
Yeah, we'll see. It'll be fun no matter what, but I am certainly grateful. And I'm also grateful to be doing this podcast and co-hosting with you.
Yeah, I'm so excited that you brought this as an idea. It's something I wouldn't have thought to do myself, but that's the beauty of sport and pickleball. It brings people together, and new ideas come up from that. So similar to you, Chrishawn, started playing sport ages 7, a little bit of basketball, not so much at the level you played, but played tennis through college as well at D1. And that's really what sparked my passion for sport in general, and particularly the opportunity to use it as a tool for outreach and community engagement. So I've been doing that for the past 12 years and now running advanced pickleball leagues that run to nationals through a team-based format. And also started a small LLC called Zen Pickleball, really with having the athletic mindset and being in college sports, just knowing how important having the right tools, whether you're preparing to play or in the middle of a match or reflecting at the end. And I know you have some background in that as well.
What she really just said there is I had a complete failure this summer, back-to-back tournaments. And so I came home, and what did I do? I phoned a friend. I found a sports psychologist.
Right.
And been working with him ever since. So absolutely spot on with what you're doing with Zen Pickleball.
Yeah, so just trying to infuse that and get more outreach. I coach at a couple of facilities in town, including the other indoor facility that we have here in Richmond. And I play for Team Pello. So that's my paddle of choice.
Fantastic. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea of who we are and kind of how we got here. And so let's just go ahead and knock out the most popular question. Why are you doing this? So really, we've both been approached at different times with, I'm glad you guys are out here. Or I should say you gals are out here in the forefront, because we don't see a lot of women online, whether it's in coaching or seminars or what have you, or training. And we don't see them, in podcasts. And the truth is, there are some fantastic women out there in coaching. Fantastic women either doing a podcast or part of a podcast. So that is there. But when you look at the sheer numbers, right, that's when you start to see the scale way out of balance, right? You've seen numbers on that.
Yeah, and I don't think they would be surprising. And I'll pitch it to you. Of the 36 million plus players we have in the U.S. now, what do you think that percentage breakdown is from male, female?
Oh, boy. The reality is probably closer than what I sense when you look at social media, et cetera. When I think of social media wise, I think 70-30, men to women.
Yeah, that's close. It's 40-60 right now, which I don't think is bad. I think
women
that's
to men.
pretty good. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I think the more interesting percentage, though, is of those coming into the sport, the increase is more on the women's side. 17% growth versus 13% on the men's side. So
Oh, we're coming after
those
you.
skills might balance at some point, whether it's players or then coaches or folks behind the scene, like our social media manager back there, Rachel Woolman, shout out to you. Just working in the sport in general. I think we might balance that out at some point.
Oh, that's pretty cool stuff. Speaking of shout outs, big shout out to Michael Benz of Elevate Pickleball. He is our sponsor for our podcast today. It's the most special podcast because it's the first one. So check
Yes,
him
thank
out.
you.
He's online, he's on Facebook, and we'll put a link in here later on in the podcast for him. But thank you very much, Elevate Pickleball. So with that, let's get this party started.
Let's do it.
Court is now in session. So, we were talking about what it could be our first topic, and there's so many things out there you could talk about. But one of the kind of rumblings under the surface of the game right now is the argument of, is pickleball a fad or a fixture? So, like, are you hearing things about the fad side? Like, what are we talking about when we say fad?
Yeah, I think fad is when people aren't sure something's going to be sustainable over time. And it's an interesting topic to bring up because that is a topic of conversation that people are having. And I think with COVID happening, that's, pickleball started in 1965, but what we've seen when COVID hit, it was one of the few sports, tennis was part of that was safe for social distancing. And so tennis saw an increase as well, but I think pickleball surpassed that because of the accessibility of the sport and the barrier to entry in terms of the skills that you need. It's just easier to just jump out there, play. It's very social. And so I think that explosion, though, is what caused people to say that's just a fad. It's going to go away eventually.
Well, the name doesn't help either, right?
The name.
I saw
I
some
like
people.
it.
Yeah, I saw some people say, what youth is going to walk around saying, "I play pickleball,"
Right.
And the name is different for sure.
Yeah, that's spot on. I can say just a week ago, I was at a middle school teaching pickleball, an intro class to some students, and a kid walks by and he starts making fun of his friend. "You're playing pickleball?" And so I engaged him a little bit. It's the fastest growing sport. And also, you won't be able to get a point off of me. And so that got him on the court. Middle schoolers, they like that challenge. So he starts playing, and by the end of it, he was like, "All right, that was pretty fun."
Just change the name and I'll be.
So yeah, I do think that trajectory will continue with the youth side, but yeah, the name is part of that. And I think the last part of the fad is we saw this happen a little bit with racquetball. So that was a topic. People said, "Oh, it exploded too," and now people don't really. It's not as popular. But I think you have to point out the fact that racquetball, you have to generally you're going to a club or a sport facility where you're having to pay fees to play. So that accessibility, again, in terms of the space isn't there. So
Absolutely. And when I think about, let me back up. I can see on the fad argument, I can see in that argument that during the peak of COVID, it did explode for exactly the reasons you're talking about, right? Accessibility and distancing, it fit all those needs. But at the same time, the restrictions have been lifted now. So we're not at that same peak we were, yet we still see this boom in everything from courts to organizations and such, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But from a fixture side as well, I have to think about, you mentioned accessibility, Sportable. They're an organization here for Paralympic athletes.
Right.
They're heavily engaged in the sport. The parks and recs and the number of courts that are booming nationwide, that shows you that, again, it's continuing to go. But it's also easy to learn. And you have people playing from like age 6 to over 100.
Right.
So those are just things and trends, I think, that just surpass this thought of it being a fad.
Yeah, the multi-generational aspect is certainly unique for the sport.
Right, absolutely. So I think what we're saying and what we agree on is that it's surpassed the test of a fad and it's now a fixture. But I know people, they want to know, prove it, show me. What can we tell these folks that still are on the fad side? Why we think it's more of a fixture? Hey, Pickle Gals here. We want to make sure we have a huge shout out to Michael Benz of Elevate Pickleball. It is the only pickleball shop end to end, A to Z in Richmond, Virginia. He has almost every major paddle manufacturer in stock, also available for demonstrations. He's got gear, he's got a shop, he's online, he's on Facebook, he's local, he can hook you up. If you aren't sure about which paddle to use, that's the guy to go to.
Well, I think we can look at from locally to nationally to internationally as it starts to spread out. I mean, the sheer number of courts and players is just continuing to rise. And I often call it the wild, wild west because it is evolving so rapidly and it's still very much in its infancy in that explosion that there's still things that are going to need to be tweaked or strategized and partnerships and things like that. But it's there and I don't see it going away.
Right. And if you look at courts, you brought up courts. So if we look at courts, I was doing a little bit of research, I must say, and I looked at just here in Richmond, Virginia. So in Richmond, Virginia, we have just under 100 outdoor courts, and that's only under Parks and Rec, right?
Yeah.
So we have over 100. Almost half of those are lit as well. So you look pre-COVID or the peak of COVID, and we didn't even have half that number of courts.
Right.
So the growth is just crazy. So you quizzed me earlier, and I was close. Let's see who gets closer to the right answer. Exactly. So if we think of not Richmond, let's go with Virginia. We think of Virginia as a state. Where do you think Virginia ranks indoor, outdoor pickleball courts, the total number of them, across the United States?
Well, with the info you just shared about our court numbers, just in Richmond, that's not even Virginia. I would put us in the top 15, I would think, around the country.
I think we're about tied in our grade. Very close.
Okay,
So Virginia nationwide ranks 12th.
Okay.
So we're number 12 in the country. For curious minds, the top 3 in this order go California, Florida, and Texas.
Okay.
So pretty cool piece of trivia. Maybe that'll be on Jeopardy someday. So yeah, it's just getting nuts in terms of the number of courts. And then we think about indoor facilities.
Right. Indoor facilities, I think, have come along later than the outdoor explosion of courts. And even just in Richmond, again, pointing out that fact, we've just the past year, 2 new indoor facilities
Right.
just for pickleball. And so I think there's different concepts with that. You see the franchises as well around the country. You have Chicken and Pickle, you have Dill Dinkers. So we've got the franchise side. And then I think more interesting is the ghost malls or dead malls, as they say. Those large industrial spaces are now being revitalized, recreated, and used for pickleball. And so the structure itself, it just lends itself to being a great fit for those spaces. So
pickleball is even saving real estate.
It is. It is.
I love it. So we talk about, the courts and indoor, outdoor, and the growth and numbers of those. At the same time, look at the number of organizations. So again, putting this in the context of FAD or Fixture, look at the number of organizations that are out there. Right? We have multiple tournament organizations.
Yeah. So you could say FAD, it's too many. You can't have all of these different things happening.
Right.
Yeah.
At the same time, they are growing and they are partnering with more with other organizations, right? Equipment companies, but also rating systems. So you have probably the 2 headliners on the tournament side for amateurs and pros, which I think is unique to pickleball as well. You've got the PPA and the APP.
Right.
And then you've got these rating systems out there, the UTR and the Duper. And you were talking about just recently some announcements about partnerships there.
Right. And that's where I think we'll see with all the entities more strategic partnerships. So the APP partnering with UTR. So you have the rating system and the organization kind of aligning. But then you have on the other side, PPA, MLP going into the UAP. We're using the whole alphabet here. But they're looking at the Duper partnership. And so those are things I think that will be key as pickleball evolves in terms of the strategy of those partnerships.
And yeah, there's a lot of acronyms going on in the world of pickleball. But again, just goes to show, that's a lot of resources. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of people. It's a lot of jobs, things that kind of to me at least, passed the test of that. This is a fixture. This is not going anywhere.
Right. And
anytime soon.
I think too, we look at other sports evolve from youth to adult. And it's interesting that pickleball is moving the opposite direction.
Right.
And so looking at college campuses, 130 now have pickleball courts. There are club teams. And I think that, again, will evolve with the NCAA looking at it as a college sport, which I think is incredibly unique that you have it set up in a co-gender format in a lot of these team leagues versus the men's team, the women's team, and they're always separate. I think that's a great, unique aspect that pickleball is going to bring to these team-based sports.
It does create challenges for hotel reservations on the
You have to have different blocks. Yes.
No, but it's so true. And you mentioned the college side. I think it was the APP. They hosted a dozen or more, like Division I universities, their college club teams, and they competed. I think it was in Indianapolis in January. I mean, so this is just spanning internationally real quick. There's an international pickleball federation.
Right.
They're reporting over 70 members of that federation.
Right.
So
we're creeping.
What'd you say about the Olympics?
Yeah, we're creeping close to it. You have to have a certain number of countries that are
Right.
part of it. But I think the projected number at this point was around 2030, 2032. We will see that. And so to say it's a fad if it becomes an Olympic sport, I mean, I don't
might
think
be the truth.
You can't say it anymore. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it doesn't, and that sounds far away for someone my age, but 2030, 2032 is not that far away at all. So
It goes fast.
the
Yeah.
really cool thing is if you're young, and I guess you don't have to be young, but if you're young and you're targeting that 2030, 2032 Olympic goal, I think you might want to pick up a pickleball paddle.
Absolutely.
So I see no slowdown in sight. Everything we're talking about points to certainly surpassing the test of a fad. Organizations, courts, rating systems, Olympics, collegiate sport. And how cool is it that we can say we are living in a time when a brand new sport
Right.
it has come within our timeline, within our lifetime. I mean, I don't know how many people can say that. A couple of things have come up, frisbee golf or what have you, maybe, but really at this level,
At this scale, it's incredible.
right? And I'm so glad that I and we can be part of something brand new that just has so much momentum, so much support financially, people, and you know what? My favorite part, as a grandparent, you can play with your grandkid.
Absolutely.
How many sports can you do that? So I think what we're saying is that pickleball is what?
I think the Pickle Gals can definitively say our opinion. You can decide for yourselves. Is pickleball's a fixture?
Pickleball
Not
is a
fad.
fixture. You heard it here. So thank you so very much. I hope you enjoyed our first podcast. Please like it and share it. Like it and share it. We have so many topics, so many more topics to cover that are going to be so much fun and maybe a little controversial.
Yeah, and I love that because I think there are conversations, particularly at our local or recreational levels, as we're trying to level up or find partnerships. There's a lot of topics that pickleball players are talking about, but maybe not in this way where we can really go back and forth and have those debates and what should we be looking for or ratings, the rating situation.
Well, just say it, Rachel. Pickleball partner divorces.
It is
That's intense.
like dating. So
Well, again, we certainly thank you very much for joining us today. Can't wait to get back and do this. Thank you for taking this on with me.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely wonderful. Until next time, court is adjourned.